Hey, Virginia.
Hello.
It's really nice to have you here.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, no, happy to be here.
So you played, not just played, but closed Pano on Sunday night, which is your longtime home.
Yeah.
How was that?
As always, I had a really good time. I know the club for so many years and the floor and every set. For me, equally, I mean, closing for some people seems to be like, but I think anytime, playing at Panorama Bar or Berghain or any club is a lot of fun. So, was another one for the books.
So anyone who's familiar with you will know that you're not just a DJ, but a singer. You have a very rich, very vibrant voice that brings so many dynamics to your sets, and you frequently sing over your sets. How much of what you sing is planned? How much of it is improvised?
Most of it is improvised.
Okay.
Really what comes up in the moment. But then certain melodies come back and back, like, I play a record and then I have this melody in my mind. And then, of course, the next time I play the record, the same melody might be popping up. But usually everything, I'd say 90% is improvised. And the things that are not improvised are probably my originals.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I was reading an interview you gave where you said you do keep some lyrics written down and you'll pull from... what is it? Strange Fruit by Billie Holiday. Like you've used some snippets of those lyrics in some of your songs. Can you tell me about that?
That was actually during a set I played in the pandemic, and it was during the Black Lives Matter movement when it kind of, was big and out and loud again. And I thought this might be something to think about, something to bring back. And I'm a big fan of Billie Holiday.
It's a powerful song.
Yeah. It's a beautiful, but also so dark song. But I really wanted to bring that up in my set, and just for those who know, have a little, listen to this.
But most of your lyrics, it seems, are really positive. You sing a lot about love and relationships and feeling good.
Yeah.
Would you say that's like a running theme?
I would say that's a running theme as well in house music, or what I would like to hear when I'm dancing. I mean, there's so much darkness, sadness, and in everyday life. So I really love to put a little bit of positivity into people's lives, into my life, because I'm not only singing for other people, but I'm also singing for myself. So we need positivity, and
we do need positivity,
fun, and so that's what I want to resonate.
So your history of singing predates your relationship with dance music, and I was doing some research. You were born and raised in Munich, and you were inspired by a lot of classic soul singers. Sade, Whitney Houston, Tracy, Chapman. What are your earliest memories of really being touched by singing and beginning to sing yourself?
I can't say, actually. I think music, since I'm coming from, my mom was singing, my dad was a musician, my sister worked in music publishing. I mean, there was music everywhere, at home. So I don't have like a very specific moment, but I just know that since I can remember, music has always been very, very prominent in my life. And I've built very close to the water, so it touches me like boom, hits me right away. So I think I'm just getting all the emotions from music.
So your mom is or was a professional singer?
She was a performer. But also a singer. My mom and my dad also used to work together. My father was a musician. He had his own big band, played the trumpet, and was also a singer. So they had a lot of projects together as well.
That's such a nice household vibe. I'm so envious. Wow.
Yeah. It was fun though. I have to say, my parents, they could be very strict, and so it was just, I guess, like a normal childhood. You know?
Of course. But so was it mostly like jazz and soul music that you were growing up with around the house?
Yes.
Okay.
And also a lot of Brazilian music, you know, so that's also very nice to have this kind of like rhythmic and listening to songs in a different language as well. So, yeah.
Did you ever train formally as a singer?
Yes.
You did? Okay.
Yeah, I had a very long years of vocal training. Yeah. And also I studied the piano, which I stopped at some point because I wanted to become a world famous DJ. Now, you know, in hindsight, I know both would have been possible to, you know, follow my passion for DJing, but also just, you know, keep on playing piano.
Well, it's never too late.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they say.
I was doing some sleuthing online for this interview, and I found some of your solo work as Virginia Nascimento. Yeah. And you made more soulful, kind of poppy music. You made an album called Twisted Mind, which I think came out on Rough Trade.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
In 2008. Mm-hmm. Can you tell me about that time and your relationship with music then? So before you were a DJ.
I was like, that's there's something with the timeline, because I was also a DJ before. I had a release also in 98. It's called I Rock, which is like a house music tracks a little bit in that, you know, like kind of French house, filter house vibe. So I started collecting records in 96, and so that was basically my first profile, or my first artist profile. And at some point I was a bit, I'd say I wanted to look out for something new, some like a different inspiration and stuff. And then I started to work on this album with a friend of mine from Frankfurt, and we both at that time were really into like a slow tempo, soulful kind of vibe. I guess I listened a lot to Sade back then.
Timeless. Yeah.
But I've always been a DJ, so it was also not always the easiest for me to combine these two worlds, because one was really like loud and out, and the other one was very, you know, delicate and soulful. And I think I've gotten better with it, and finally, you know, these days could really merge these two persons or artists within myself.
Yeah, but for a while, did it seem challenging to do that?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Also for the outside world, because they couldn't really figure out. That's why I used my mom's maiden name, Nascimento, to kind of show people that there's a difference between Virginia as a DJ and house music vocalist, and Virginia Nascimento as the more, you know, what do you say, sophisticated artist.
Okay. Are you first generation German? Like, did she move from Brazil?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. What first opened your eyes to electronic music? I read somewhere, and correct me if I'm wrong, that your sister took you out clubbing, and this was kind of like your first experience with really like resonating with music for the club and wanting to be more involved in that world.
Yeah, she was a little bit older than I am, and so she already, you know, experienced clubs and going out and partying and stuff. And she took me along, and then I'm like, wow, I'm hooked. And then there was no way back for me. And exactly.
Did your experiences, so before you really became like Virginia of Panorama Bar, did these earlier experiences inform your work now, or how did they inform your work now?
Everything kind of prepared me, I'd say, you know, for the task. I know that before I actually started playing Panorama Bar, I might have not been ready, or I was maybe in a different place in my life. But after starting to work with Steffi, it somehow, it was a little bit more of a fluent process, and not as like, oh, I need to play this club, but more like, okay, we work together. It was released on the Oscotone label, and then somehow we all talked about me also maybe performing as a DJ, and my first performance was actually for Steffi's first album for the release party.
Oh, okay.
And it worked out well. And luckily, I was able to play more shows.
So if you don't mind, so you are, for people who may not be aware, you and Steffi, you collaborate a lot, but you're also partners.
Yeah.
How did you meet? Like, how did that first meeting happen?
Oh, we met via a mutual friend.
Okay.
And I, kind of knew her from, not personally, obviously, but Panorama Bar, no. But then we got like that evening at dinner, we talked about music and who came up again, Sade, and our mutual love for Sade and mutual love for music in general. And then we're like, you know what? Oh, you're a producer. I'm a singer. And okay, maybe, feels good. There was a instant click and a vibe. And then we talked about working on some music together.
So, I mean, at this point, I know you were doing accompanying vocals for artists like Sade, Steffi, but then you did come out with your first solo release on Oscotone in 2013. How did that leap from accompanying artist to solo artist happen, and how did that feel?
Steffi really inspired me and really pushed me in the best possible way to, like, you know what, you have so many sketches and you're so creative and you have so many ideas. Why don't you just finish your own, ideas? You don't have to wait for someone else to come and and finish everything for you. So just give it a try. And so she was really the thriving force behind me releasing on Oscotone as a solo artist. So I really have to thank her for that.
That's really sweet.
Yeah. No, it is.
I mean, it seems like you've created something very mutually supportive. I mean, from the outside, I don't know your relationship, but you frequently play back-to-backs, you play on the same lineups, you put out releases together. Has it always felt harmonious to be in a relationship with someone else who's also in the music industry? Or has there ever been an element of like competition or claustrophobia? Or
for us, it's an ongoing process. It's super positive. I love it. I love to be on tour with Steffi. I love to be in the studio with Steffi. I appreciate her so much as an artist, and of course it's sometimes challenging, because it's hard to just like close the studio door and not be like, oh, okay, bringing some personal stuff into the room. But over the years, we really manage better and better to navigate these situations. And also, here and there, eventually there might be a little clash, but also I think that's a very natural and especially in the artistic field, a really important thing to happen, because then you grow together, but you also bring the project to the next level, I'd say. So it's challenging sometimes. But then after an amazing show, live show, DJ gig or whatever, who is the person you really want to tell about? You want to tell about it. It's the person you love the most. So it's nice to share.
Performing and making music is such a powerful experience, and if you can share that with somebody you love, what an incredible
Yeah,
way
it
to live
is.
life. Yeah.
Because that's the first thing we do usually after a gig, you know, when we play solo shows apart somewhere in different countries. It's like, hey, how was it? Mine was so and so, and how was yours? So we, you know, there's immediately the sharing of the experience. So if you played the same stage and then you're like, oh my God, this was amazing, and of course it's amazing to share that with. With someone so close to you.
Yeah. You mentioned that she really pushed you in a positive way. What do you feel like you each contribute to your work together? Like, do you feel like you have areas of weakness that she excels in and vice versa? Because you collaborate so much on all of your releases, or many releases.
Over the years, we've learned to bring out the strength in the other one, and but also sometimes, to be honest, there's also things that don't work the way we want, you know, and there's still things I have to learn, still things Steffi has to learn, but in general, I couldn't imagine a better music buddy.
Sweet. I'd love to know more about your solo process. When you work on a release, like, what is your creative process like, especially since you are working with lyrics? Are you usually imagining lyrics first and then building music around it, or vice versa, or does it just depend?
When I'm writing lyrics or when I'm working on music, I usually start with the instrumental. Okay. I love adding melodies and percussions and another layer of string, and so that's the part that I like the most. Then I start adding vocals, which usually are phonetic. Mm-hmm. There might be one word that's gonna be a key word in the lyrics that I'm writing, you know, afterwards. Might not be the case, but sometimes there's a word that I really like that just comes natural when I'm, you know, singing to the instrumental, and then I'm building a story around that word. And sometimes there is a word that is really hard for me to build a story around, so that's like okay, think about something. But yeah, so usually I start with the instrumental, then phonetic lyrics, and then I have to go into detail. Yeah.
You and Steffi led the Berlin exodus to Portugal during the pandemic. You now live in the countryside, where you also have a studio, which you've called Candy Mountain. You'd been living in Germany for your entire life, I think, until then. So how did that move feel? Because that's now been, 4 or 5 years that you've been there?
Yeah, we moved to Portugal actually 7 years ago, I think.
Oh, wow.
Even. I haven't regretted it a day. It
That's
was
what
such
everyone says.
it was such a good decision, but also not living in the city anymore, but living outside, and and maybe an hour outside of Lisbon. You know, it's chill. I mean, the flights are longer, but every time I open the windows in the morning, I'm like, wow, it's all worth it.
You seem to have achieved what most people only dream of starting with Candy Mountain. How did this project come to life, and how did you find the time, maybe not the time because it was the pandemic, but the space to carry out the renovations? It seems like you really flipped this property and turned it into a dream home and studio. I would love to hear more about that.
The house is a couple of kilometers away from the house where we live, and both of us, we drove by a couple times, you know, without talking to each other about it, but the house had something intriguing to both of us. And then at some point Steffi was like, hey, have you seen that house? I never see anyone there. Maybe it's for sale. And I was, I think, playing somewhere abroad, and then Steffi said, you know what, they put up a sign, it's for sale, and actually the gate was open, and there was someone in there, so she actually met the real estate guy, talk to them. And so this was it was a little bit like, oh my God, what's happening here? And this is crazy, and in a pandemic, and we're both not working. And but yeah, I mean, we saw the place and we're like, wow, this is like a dream come true. We always both wanted to have like a studio place where there's also a living space, and this was just like too good to be true. And then we're like, you know what, okay, let's jump into cold water and just like, yeah, buy this house and do something great with it.
Wow. So you're living there now. You moved out of your old house and you're like living and working in this space.
No, we live in our house,
Okay.
and we have this house as like a complete creative cell.
God, that's so nice.
Because we also, sorry, but we also didn't know, okay, the pandemic, how long is it going to go?
Of course.
Like, what's going to happen? And we're like, you know what? In the end, we could still just like run a studio,
Yeah.
and have people come to us and just work there. So this was also like a plan for the future.
Yeah.
For us as a...
And I know it's called Candy Mountain because of the candy is all the synthesizers and toys there.
Yeah.
And you started a label as an outgrowth of the studio called Candy Mountain. And it seems like you're primarily releasing music from friends and artists who have come and recorded in the space and collaborated with you. Can you tell me more about this?
Candy Mountain, the label was really as an extra excitement and like an extra candy to what we've already had, like an extension. And not all of the projects that are released on Candy Mountain were necessarily written in Candy Mountain, but there was also always an exchange with the artists that have already released. They're very close to our heart, and amazing artists. So we're trying to build a little bit of a community, a little bit of a Candy Mountain family, and wanted to involve our friends in that.
Yeah, no, I've seen photos of artists who are just in your studio. I mean, it's almost like a residency program that you're running.
That was actually the idea in the pandemic, but then, all the clubs opened again, and we're like, oh, okay, we're going DJing. But this is, it's just a thing that's kind of postponed. That's definitely something for the future, to do some workshops and some master classes and all that kind of stuff in the place. But yeah, we've already had a couple of our friends coming and working on some music with us.
How does it feel coming back to Berlin now that you've lived somewhere so different for 7 years and somewhere so tranquil?
It's always nice to come back to Berlin, but it's also always nice to leave Berlin. A couple days, and we're staying with a lovely friend, so we don't have to stay at a hotel, which makes a huge difference, because then you already feel like there is a home away from home. And of course we play the club, so that's also very familiar. But after a couple days in the city, I'm more than happy to go back to my to my quiet place in the countryside. I've had a lot of amazing experiences and made a lot of beautiful memories here in Berlin. But it was time for me to do something different and to get a fresh input. And I guess also priorities shifted for me. So this was also... It's, I guess, a natural process. I've used and loved and Berlin as a city for many years and was crazy with it. But now I'm happy to be here for a couple of days, and then I'm back to like...
You've been living in Portugal for 7 years, so I imagine you have a really good understanding of the landscape, and it seems like the music scene there has really just blossomed in the last few years. And you've supported a lot of local talent as well. So what are your impressions of the Portuguese music scene and how it's changed?
We've been living in Portugal for quite a while now. I think for me, it's always important to kind of try and integrate and work with with local talent or at least do some collaborations. So we had we did throw a couple of parties with the crew of Carpets and Snares, which is like a record store. Steffi has just released an album of Will, and it's an amazing album, and we're both playing at a club called Planeta Manas, which is a collective, and so our connection comes via Violet, and it's fun to also get to know the scene, the Portuguese scene. I mean, there's always been an interesting music scene, not only house music or electronic music in general, tribal stuff back in the 90s and all that. So there's also like a very left field kind of music scene that's super interesting. I think it's important. I mean, we're living there, and I want to make friends there. I want to play there. I want to work with the people, maybe at Candy Mountain. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's also something I want to give back to a place to a country where I'm welcome to live, so I also want to give some of my creativity back, and so it's like a vice versa,
Well, I want to segue into talking about your LP, which will be announced by the time this airs. It's a split LP, Patterns of Vibration, which is out on Deck Mantle. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And according to the press text, it's a celebration of joyful moments put together from the daily rituals of living at Candy Mountain. The text mentions Steffi's 50th birthday party, which I saw some photos of online, reconnecting with old friends, tapping into a deep love for ecstatic moments of freedom and unity. It's a lot more soulful and housey than your last split release, which came out on Osgoton, which was a little bit more like electro-y. Tell me about this.
Our new album is going to be out on Deck Mantle, so also thanks to Deck Mantle for having us on their label. I think this is a full circle moment for both of us, for Steffi and myself. We went back to the studio and thought like, okay, so what's the vibe for our next collaboration? Because every time we worked together, we did something a little bit different. We didn't want to copy ourselves or just like take the same formula. So every time we actually went in a little bit of a different direction. And for this time, it really felt like we want to circle back to house music, to making house music together. And we're usually not living in Candy Mountain, but actually for the album we spent a lot of time there also sleeping. Then also at some point we built a tent in the garden because September was actually initially planned for me to just take some time off and to be ready for the last couple months of the year. But then came the album opportunity, and we're like, you know what? Let's have a little holiday within our own, within a home. But we spent a lot of time writing new sketches, like everything. Nothing was already there. So Steffi started from scratch with the instrumentals, and another one, and I'm like, oh, this one, yeah, okay, I immediately feel something with that one. This one, I tried, it's cool, but it's just not for me. So both of us were like constantly, exchanging ideas, and a 3-month period for an album is quite a challenge, but also it also in a good way. So we thought like, you know what, boom, let's nail this. But it was pretty soon pretty clear for us that this is going to be a house album.
It's interesting because there are very few artists I can think of who are as versatile as both of you, who can like do so many different genres and do them well. Like usually I'll think of artists and I'm like, oh, that's a techno artist, that's like an electro artist. But it's even Candy Mountain and the music you've released together, it's like breaks, electro, jungle, house, tech, like it really spans this range, but it really all feels to fit within your world. So a testament to your craft.
Thank you, that's actually really nice to hear. Yeah I guess that comes from our love to different genres of music. And I think there's always, as you just mentioned, there's always a little red thread that says Steffi and Virginia, but we also like to evolve and try out new things, and but yeah, still always trying to bring a little bit of our own, or like to keep not a little bit but a lot of our own identity and vibe into.
Since it seems like there were, like, the setting of where you made this album really fed into the music, are there any specific memories or moments that come to mind when you think of making this? Yeah,
you mentioned Steffi's 50th birthday, and yeah, we had a lot of our closest and lovely friends with us, and yeah, there was so much good energy that was left behind and resonated in the whole house, on the terrace, on downstairs in the kitchen area, upstairs in the studio. That at some point we were working on some music. It was like, it feels like one of our friends is just like gonna come out of the toilet or the kitchen. Do you want a tea? Or would you like some snacks or whatever? It was such a good buzz in the place that, yeah, it was so inspiring, and we had so much fun and such a good. Every day I woke up, we were just like, let's go to Candy Mountain. It was it was like a of friends, or like the celebration of all of our friendship, and Steffi's birthday was some sort of like a initiator of creation.
Oh,
no, but
really
it felt
nice.
Amazing, and yeah, it was funny. We always thought like, is there someone from the party left here?
That's really
yeah.
nice.
So it's really good memories, and yeah.
It seems like you're very committed to, like, quality of life, health, well-being. Was that always the case, or has that kind of come with moving to this new location?
I've not always lived super healthy. I try to eat healthy, but that's also not always. It was also not always possible. But moving to Portugal, it was a good moment to really change things around. For me, it's eating well and trying to have a good sleep hygiene and everything. Helps me a lot with my mental health. I mean, I'm not the best sleeper. I'm a very light sleeper, and it's probably like 25 years of shift work, let's say, in clubs, sleepless nights, and that kind of stuff. But like in general, it just helps me a lot with maintaining a good mental health, trying to live a little bit healthier. You never know what happens, like hopefully it's helping me to extend a healthy life, but definitely up here is necessary to lay off a couple things.
And am I correct that you are interested in botany, like growing fruits and vegetables? I saw some photos of you making jam.
Yeah. I mean, we have so many fruit trees in the garden. I love it. It's absolutely amazing. But I mean, the trees, they do it for me, But we also had a vegetable garden at the past couple summers. We didn't have so much time, so it's basically just fresh herbs, at least that. But also with plants, I love just having little seedlings here and there, and you see how it grows. So all around the house there are plants, and this little one comes from that one, and it's just like an ongoing and growing and nourishing vibe that resonates to me, to see something grow. But I would really, really love to have another vegetable garden, because this is probably what I would call, this is luxurious to me, just going out in the garden and cut some leaves for a salad, or what did we have? We had everything. There was tomatoes and cucumber, and this is absolutely stunning. In the beginning we were like, oh, is this going to grow? Is this going to grow? And then 2 days later you're like, oh my God, everything is just working on its own. Nature is fascinating and amazing, and it's so much fun.
Yeah. Well, living in a city, it's sad, but that I think most people are so far removed from the experience of growing, but I've never grown a vegetable and eaten it, and I think that would feel very empowering, actually. Like, you seem to have almost like a little self-sustaining little mini community.
It is, and it is definitely, there is something different to, like, eating the vegetable that you've grown. You know, you put the seeds in the soil and everything. I mean, it makes you proud. It's nourishing for the soul, especially in the pandemic, where everything was a bit grim and stuff, and you didn't know, and then you know, you see something happening, and you're like, oh, that's something for the soul as well, something for your stomach, but also for the soul. So that's amazing, and just being out in nature and ground yourself in a different way than is possible in the city. I mean, not everyone has the possibility, of course, and not everyone might have the interest yet, because when I was younger, I was also like, sometimes I go, you know, I have a holiday at the seaside, and sometimes I do a little hike in the woods, but these days it's so different for me. So this is my narrative, you know, being out in nature much more, and or if I'm having a shitty day, the best thing I can do is jump in the car and drive to the seaside, which is about 15 to 20 minutes away from us, and just sitting there and inhale, exhale, and after maybe a half hour, you start, you know, moaning. You're like, oh. And it's just so calming and relaxing. And this is something where I'm like, okay, I worked hard for this, but now I'm here. So I'm really, really grateful that this is, that this is part of a big part of my life now. And driving back from the seaside, I guess it more relaxed. Not only reflects on myself, but also on the people around me. If I'm less stressed, and so that's really helpful to me, and also in general, to go back to your question before about mental health. This is all helping me a lot to unwind.
And make house music, beautiful house music.
But then again, you know, you need it loud and forceful and strong, and music is passion and music is emotion. So in an interview you gave about a decade ago, you said that you always like to set new goals for yourself, and you said the higher the better, and you were specifically talking about feeling driven to perform on certain stages or certain festivals. So I wonder, what are your goals now, especially having found a totally different pace of life? I'm still having a list of things that I want to do, and I try to manifest them. And because it's also, and I write it down, because it's also good for yourself to see what you've already achieved from the goals you set for yourself. Sometimes you're like, I want this, I want that, and you totally forget about the things you've already achieved, where you can say like, oh wow, I've actually done that, so I can box that off. So that list is, and there's also always new things coming on that list, of course. Otherwise, I would be unfinished. I think my goal is really to be, the sound might a bit corny and cheesy, but to become a better version of myself, taking a good look in the mirror, reflect on the things where I still have to learn. I try and be a good person, help people around me, be there for my family and friends, be there for myself, and as I said, might sound a bit cheesy, but I think these are the things for me at the moment in this world, where everything is kind of, I don't find the right words for it, but I guess we all know what I'm talking about. Is not easy, and I guess it's just start within yourself if you want to make a change. You know, don't always look outside and hate on them and this and that, and they should do this and that and blah blah blah. Have all good ideas and critiques, but just like look in the mirror. There might be things you don't want to see, but start and change them, and try and make, you know, the little circle around yourself, your community, and the people around you, help them make their life happier. And I guess that's my motivation and my goal.
You have, I was on your Instagram, you have a highlight reel called Jeannie's Book Club.
Oh, yeah.
So you have a few photos of books that you've been reading. One of them is called Self-Compassion, The Proven Science of Being Kind to Yourself. Can you tell me a little bit about this, but then also generally about, I guess, the role that reading plays in your life?
Self-compassion. I was not always very good with self-compassion. I tend to be very hard with myself, push myself a lot, and but also I'm a very sensitive person. So this I had to find a way for myself. And I also haven't finished the book yet, because I think there's always also so many things you can learn in one period, you know. So I open it and I read a little bit and then take this with me, and then maybe a year later I learn some more, read and learn some more. But yeah, self-compassion is not an easy task.
Yes,
I'd say, but I'm getting better at it.
What about some of the other books that were on that highlight reel? I saw The Testaments by Margaret Atwood, Young Mungo by Douglas Stewart.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yes.
Good stuff.
Is it? I have to ask. Is it like an actual? Because I'm a big reader. Is it an actual book club, or this is just you sharing?
I mean, I'm actually the only member of the book club, and hopefully some people I can, you know, give it inspire to read a book on my socials, or like, you know, of a specific book. I mean, now I guess I'm sharing my book club experience with the people who like the picture, who see the reel.
If you make it an actual book club, you have another member.
Okay, a nice one. That's good to know.
Yes.
That's good to know. Yeah, cool. We should do let's have that be the motto for the next podcast.
Yes, just books.
Yeah, a good one.
What's next on the horizon for your own work and for Candy Mountain?
I think there's a lot of album-related activities this year, so
exciting.
Watch out.
Okay. Can you reveal if is it mostly solo work?
No, it's a lot of work together with Steffi. So we're gonna be performing the album live.
Nice.
There's gonna be a couple shows where you can catch us. Yeah, and other than that, I'd say, you know, one project is finished. Let's move on to the next one. So I'm in the process of writing some music again. Okay. There was a little bit of time in between now where you have to kind of like close one chapter and open another one. But there's definitely, some music that I want to work on, and also some collaborations, maybe also with some of the names you've already mentioned, other than Steffi. And hopefully also a solo project.
How about for Candy Mountain? What are you able to reveal what you have coming out?
I'm not able to reveal what's coming out, but I can say it's gonna be good.
Okay,
I
don't doubt
so
that.
Watch out and have your ears wide open. No, there's always good stuff coming. Like I love all of the music that has been released so far. So yeah.
What do you wish for in the next chapter of your life and in your career?
Okay, this is not an easy question. But I'm hoping that I can follow up on my passion for much longer, meaning writing music, touring, and traveling, botany, stay healthy. And I guess that's, in a nutshell, that's it. I mean, there's so much more that's probably, you know, coming up when I think about it tomorrow. But for today, I can say I'm just,
living the good life.
Living the good life and making the best of it.
Yeah. Well, I'm really happy for you, very jealous from afar. And
you can come visit.
Okay.
Bring a book.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been wonderful speaking with you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Thanks to you and your team. Cheers.